Book TV recently visited Capitol Hill to ask members of Congress what they're reading this summer.
I am a multiple reader, so I read a lot of books all at the same time. And so sometimes I'll finish a book all in one sitting, but more often than not, I read different parts of a book. But for example, one book that I finished reading relatively a short time ago is this great book that I understand you did a whole segment on. It's The Millionaire and the Bard. I'm a big fan of Shakespeare, and to know that the Folger Library is right down the street from where I live, and when I saw this book, I immediately picked it up, and it is a terrific book about Folger, who went on a spree, really, to buy Shakespeare's folios, and he amassed a huge collection of not just the folios, but enough materials on Shakespeare that he created the Folger Library. And it's a fascinating story of how it ended up in Washington, D.C. But I'm also reading, I'm rereading The Righteous Mind. It's a book about communicating, how we communicate in a more effective way. And if you can picture an elephant, and there's a rider on the elephant is making all of the decisions, go left, right, forward, backward. The rider merely explains what the elephant is doing. And a lot of times you talk to the rider, who is not making the decisions. We ought to be talking to the elephant. And so it's a really good way to remember that you should be talking to the elephant making the decisions, not the person explaining the decisions. And I think in a time of a political situation arena, it's important that we keep in mind who the heck we ought to be talking to. So it's a book that I'm rereading. I'm also reading a book that I picked up at the National Gallery a week or so ago. It's called The Accidental Masterpiece. And it is about how you see art, and really to me, because I am a great lover of art, that you can see beauty in art and everyday objects and everywhere you look. But this is also another really interesting book that I just picked up. As you can see by my office, that I like color, I like art. I also do my own art. I do ceramics, although I intend to keep my day job here. And reading, I just want to mention, is foundational, because I was not born in this country. English is not my first language. And I credit a librarian when I was in elementary school who awakened my love of reading. And I still remember the book that she read to the cadre of little kids who would sit at her feet at the library, and she read us Mary Poppins. And that really brought on the love of reading for me, which, as I said, is foundational. I think basically in order to be a good writer, you should be a reader. And I'm a pretty voracious reader.
Is there anything else that you're reading this summer?
Well, let's see. I also picked up H is for Hawk. And I also read New Yorker compilations of short stories that I have on my iPad, and those are things that I can read and when I have time. And as I said, I have a number of those kinds of books on my iPad. But one other thing I want to mention, though, is that often when you think about the books that changed your way of thinking, there's one book that did that for me when I was in college, and that was The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. And literally a light bulb went on when I read that book, and I decided that maybe my life was not going to consist of getting married and having children and living that kind of life, that I should be thinking about taking care of myself and expanding my own horizons. I can honestly say that that is one book that totally changed my way of thinking about myself.
Book TV wants to know what you're reading this summer. Tweet us your answer at BookTV, or you can post it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/BookTV.